Hey, welcome back to the Mistwood Publishing Book Club. We are continuing our series of looking at the Veil of Stars. This week we're looking at Chapter 25, The Shores of Destiny. So, this chapter there's not too much to say about it because it's a big battle. But our companions show up on the shoreline and they're ready to do this thing. Now, this is the chapter that the cover is depicting. So, have a good look at that. There is a specific moment I'll try to point out which is meant to kind of depict it. But we got everything on here. We got Ormriller, although it's probably more like a baby Ormriller. We got Wendigo. We got some lifts. We got another Wendigo. We got Is up here. We got two lifts here on the spine as well. There's a Wendigo right here with his shield. I've always liked that guy. Then we got a lift. I think that's also a lift. This is a Wendigo. This is a Wendigo. Although these are smaller Wendigos. And then some more lifts. We have Ruth, Talia with the armor that she gets from Neris in this chapter. And we have Narbad. Now, it is worth noting that everything's always reversed in this channel. This is probably the closest to an actual Wendigo that I have, and I will attach an image of the Virar here because I had an artist that really nailed what an Ormriller is supposed to look like, what a Wendigo is supposed to look like, and what a Lif is supposed to look like. And like, if there was supposed to be a representation of these villains that was like, this is what they look like most commonly, that's what they would look like. And it is worth noting that the Wendigo I just pointed out to you on the back that's what Wendigos look like. Like that, it's the same thing. And the Lif here on the spine, that's like what Lifs look like. Some of the lifts on the cover don't necessarily look the way that I imagine them, but you can't have them all look the same. And some of the Wendigos don't look, like what they're meant to look like. I'll be honest, this guy, I'm not a fan of how he looks. If I could go back in time, I probably would have changed. I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't like it, sort of a thing. He's probably the only one that I have like a big issue with, to be honest with you, which is disappointing because he's on the front cover. But yeah, I really like that guy, and then the Ormriller are really the only ones that I felt didn't really capture what they're meant to look like. So I'm very glad that Mark for Emerald Knights depicted them. And I'll put that image here if I haven't already. And I'm very tempted to put that image in almost every book just as a reminder of what these things look like because it so perfectly captures what they're meant to look like. But at any rate, that illustration was done after this book was published. So there we go. So they get onto the shore, and Neris gives Talia this necklace, which is part of the prophecy to redeem Grey Elves, but until that Grey Elf is found, Talia is meant to wear it. And basically, how this necklace works is that Talia could be wearing really anything. As long as she wears the necklace, the armor looks like it does on the front cover. And it's magical. So it controls the temperature that she's experiencing. If she were to, say, get stabbed on the thigh, where it doesn't appear to be metal, she would still be protected. If she were to be stabbed in the chest, which is kind of, it's an open chest here, she would still be protected because the magic is in the necklace. And even if the necklace were to be striked, it's made by Neris and Gesu, so it's not going to break. This is a very, 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 very powerful enchantment. And so that is the Talia armor and how she gets that. Let's see. We have some issues with the companions and kind of dealing with Neris. Tima in particular is not a fan of Neris and her attire, which admittedly is kind of a dig at people that I knew would have a problem with the character of Neris a little bit. Whether or not that's in good taste, I don't know if I still think I would have put that in there, but yeah, it's in there permanently, so what are you going to do? So some expressions of she's just going to betray us, this isn't going to go very well. Talia is given the necklace, and soon after that they land on the shore. Although what I was just describing does take up a good portion of the chapter. As well as Neris does throw a hint out there that Talia's magic might not be clerical, and that's another big topic of the next book. It's not something to just be glossed over, because basically Talia's journey in the next book revolves around that. And they get off the boat and they fight. As Ruth says, draw swords. And the basilisk, Kent leads the way as kind of like if it were an arrow, right? Kent is at the front because anybody that looks in his eyes dies, and you obviously don't want your companions to look into his eyes. Meanwhile, Neris is at the back kind of floating because she can do that and using her magic to kind of cover them, because this is essentially a very small group of people going up against hundreds of Wendigos, which are pretty formidable foes. And it's a pretty epic fight. We have some update, we check in on different companions, and I like to do that. Anytime I write a battle, I like to have like the scope be prevalent. So like one character, Neris in this instance, kind of has like a aerial view almost, or you'll have a character that, when we go to that character, you'll get more of like a general layout of how the battle is progressing. And then I also like to have these sections where we get into the nitty-gritty of what each companion is doing and how they're contributing to the fight. And that's where I tend to have the most fun, because I really do enjoy writing very violent action, coming up with creative ways for my characters to kill enemies. I always feel like I'd be very good at making fatalities for Mortal Kombat. And so I have a lot of fun with that. I have a lot of fun creating battles where there's a lot going on and we're jumping between the broader scope of the battle and the individual scope of the battle. And it's something that editors have said I do very masterfully as well. So hopefully you enjoy that. And I have to say, if you do, the next book only gives you even more of it. The battle at the end of Saga 2 is probably 10 times the size of this one in terms of bodies on the field and in terms of the gore and the sheer epicness of it. The high fantasy. We got monsters, tens of thousands of combatants, and it's very epic. But as for this book, this battle is still very epic too. When Neris and DeFlorgak go at it, it's some of my favorite writing. Neris just going ham on it. Like I said, I really love writing magic users as just absolutely freaking epic. And hopefully Neris gives that impression here, because I had a lot of fun thinking up of this fight between her and DeFlorgak, and it is super epic. Just like the power on display, both for her and him, because now you're seeing DeFlorgak in his final form. We had that horribly grotesque sacrifice scene with Kara making the new DeFlorgak, to where he looks more like what your traditional Wendigo would look like, and I'll try to put a picture of that up here from the visual companion. But yeah, epic fight. They end up kind of losing But Tima is mysteriously unaccounted for. And that's where the chapter ends. Anyway, at some point in this chapter, I don't remember the exact page, but it's close to the end. Basically, one of the companions looks back and sees Narbad, Ruth, and... Okay, yeah, it's right here, page 503. Naris looked to Narbad, Ruth, and Talia, who were making their stand atop a slight rocky hill and surrounded by several lifts, Wendigos, and an armed Riller. Naladboth and Ragni and Lenod were fighting a pack of Wendigos not far behind the others, and Tima was nowhere to be seen. The companion's position was precarious and about to get a lot worse. That is supposed to be this. I mean, the cover is just depicting the battle as a whole. But after the cover was made, I wanted to have a specific paragraph that very specifically referenced the cover because I feel like that's the way that it should be. We will do this next chapter, chapter 26, The Heart of Ice, which is definitely not like a reference, but I just love the name from that the episode of Batman where Mr. Freeze is introduced. So, I mean, it has nothing to do with Mr. Freeze, but it's kind of like a little, very small, I love you to Mr. Freeze there. But who is back there behind me? I got a Mr. Freeze statue right here. But have a nice week, and I'll see you for our next video. Peace out.